Story 1. The cartographer's room, the map that was never finished. The last thing my colleague said before he disappeared was, "Don't look at the map after midnight. It starts looking back." Primera, la ujide. I shouldn't have laughed. My name is Tariq Hassan. In 2019, I was hired as a restoration specialist for the Sindh Provincial Archives in Karachi. Not the public wing that tourists visit, but Sub-Level 3. The basement that doesn't appear on the building's official floor plan. Nobody talks about Sub-Level 3. The archive houses cartographic documents, maps, survey charts, and hand-drawn territorial records dating back over 300 years. My job was simple: preserve the old ones before they crumbled. Photograph them, catalog them, seal them in acid-free sleeves. Quiet work, solitary work, the kind of work where silence isn't peaceful, it's waiting. The archive had no windows. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, and there was always a faint smell I couldn't identify. Something between old paper and something wetter. Organic. Like something was decomposing very slowly behind the walls. I told myself it was mold. I still tell myself that 3 weeks into the job. I was assigned to catalog a set of maps recovered from a sealed crate in the far corridor, Section 9F. The crate had no label, no origin date, just a handwritten note taped to the lid is faded. "Do not complete this map." My supervisor, Mr. Faruqi, a thin man who always wore the same gray sweater regardless of temperature, told me to ignore the note. "Old superstition," he said without making eye contact. "Just catalog what's inside. Don't add anything to it." I nodded. I didn't ask why someone would add to a 300-year-old map. Inside the crate was a single document, large, nearly 1 meter wide, unrolled, hand-drawn in ink that had gone dark brown, almost black. It depicted a coastal region, recognizable geography, the Arabian Sea's curve, and the delta patterns of what is now Sindh. But the map was incomplete. There was a section, roughly the size of my palm near the center right, where the ink simply stopped. No border, no fade. Just an abrupt, unnatural blank space, as if the cartographer had simply refused to continue. Around the blank space, someone had drawn tiny symbols in a different ink. Smaller, newer, possibly added later by a different hand. They looked like eyes. I photographed the map. I cataloged it. I slid it into its sleeve and placed it back in the crate. That night, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was scared. Not yet. I was curious. What was in that blank space? Geographically, the area roughly corresponded to a coastal stretch that no longer existed, swallowed by the sea. Sometime in the 18th century, an entire village, according to historical records, gone overnight. I went back the next morning and pulled the map out again. The blank space was smaller. Primera, blinked. I measured it with a ruler, told myself I'd misremembered. I'm a professional. I photograph and measure everything. I pulled up yesterday's photograph on my laptop. The blank space was definitely smaller. Something had been drawn in overnight. New lines, faint, almost invisible, as if sketched with a dying pen. They formed the outline of a rectangular structure. A building, or maybe a room. The archive had been locked. The crate had been sealed. I told Mr. Faruqi. He went very still. Then he said, quietly, "How much did you draw?" I didn't draw anything. He looked at me for a long moment, unblinking. Then he turned and walked away without another word. I should have left it alone. Instead, over the next 4 days, I checked the map every morning. And every morning, more of the blank space had been filled in. The structure became detailed walls, a doorway, and what appeared to be a staircase descending into the ground. On the 5th day, I arrived to find the entire blank space filled. The map was complete. And in the center of the newly drawn structure, in ink so fresh it was still slightly tacky, was a single small figure, a person, standing at the bottom of the staircase and looking up. I leaned in closer. The figure was tiny, barely a centimeter, but the detail was impossible for something so small. A face. My hands were shaking when I realized the figure was wearing a watch. A small, careful drawing of a wristwatch. I looked at my wrist. Same watch. Same brand. Same worn leather strap. I called Mr. Faruqi. No answer. I called the main office. They said he hadn't come in that day. Actually, he hadn't come in for several days, which was strange because he'd been there when you arrived this morning. Didn't you see him? I had not seen him. I was alone in sub-level 3. I rolled up the map, placed it back in the crate, and walked to the elevator. The elevator wouldn't go to the upper floors. It kept returning me to sub-level 3. Doors opening to the same buzzing corridor. Same fluorescent lights. Same smell of wet paper. I took the stairs instead, climbed 4 flights, pushed open the door, and stepped into sub-level 3. The staircase had brought me down. I stood in the corridor, breathing hard, and looked at section 9F. The crate was open. The map was laid flat on the examination table, though I had sealed it myself, and Tifiguda, the one wearing my watch, had moved. It was no longer at the bottom of the staircase. It was standing in the doorway. Facing outward, I ran. I don't remember how I got out. I don't remember the next 2 hours at all. I was found at 11 p.m. by a security guard sitting on the front steps of the building, staring at my hands. Mr. Faruqi was never found. The police checked sub-level 3. They found the crate, the map fully completed, every detail intact. But when they photographed it for evidence, something appeared in the photograph that wasn't visible to the naked eye. In the structure drawn at the center of the map, in the room at the bottom of the staircase, there were 2 figures now. One is wearing a watch, one in a gray sweater. Both are looking up. Neither of them, the forensic photographer noted in her report, had been drawn in. They looked, she wrote, as if they had always been there. As if they had been trapped. I resigned the next week. I haven't been back to that building. I haven't looked at a map since. Not even on my phone. Without a cold feeling crawling up the back of my neck. Maybe the isolation was getting to me. Maybe Struss played tricks on my mind. Or maybe some places carry things we simply don't understand. The archive is still open. Sub-level 3 is still operating. I heard they hired a new restoration specialist last month. I hope he reads the note on the crate.